Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Mindful Mondays. I just want to give a heads up. I'm not sure where you are calling from, where you are logged in from. There are thunderstorms, which could affect our internet connection. If that happens and it suddenly goes blank, I will reconnect through my phone. So I'm just giving you a heads up if that does happen. We do have other options. Hopefully it doesn't, but just a heads up, just in case. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. We want to welcome all our people who have been here before and all our new people who have never been here before on Mindful Mondays. We've been following, for those of you who have not been here, we are following a very interesting topic that we've been discussing. This is already the third month that we are talking about this topic. And I do believe that is really true wisdom, something that we've spoken about several times here about the three different levels of an individual. There is the lower self, the average self, and the higher self, something that is mentioned throughout in various sources. It's mentioned a lot in religious sources. This is not a religious program, but it is mentioned in a multitude of religious sources, mostly Kabbalah, about the three different levels of a person, of the lower self, the average self, the higher self. It's spoken a lot in psychology and in theories. And we have our own definition of how we approach this concept of a lower self, an average self, and a higher self. The goal of our program that is hosting these Mindful Mondays, Ascent program, is to guide each individual to live in their highest self. It is completely different type of life, and it has a major impact on a majority of aspects in an individual's life, something that we've been talking about for the last 6 months now, about the various parts of an individual's life, how it positively impacts that individual, something that we teach a lot in our programs. And if anybody wants to find out, I'll post it later about how you can connect with us and talk to us about our different programs and what we do. And the idea of the Mindful Mondays is just to give a little flavor of something that we focus on a lot. And lowest self is an individual who talks about other people, something that each and every one of us fall into at some point in my life, myself included. I'm certainly not somebody who lives at my higher self all the time. I don't think that's humanly possible. Maybe tzaddikim, maybe righteous people are able to do that. But the average individual doesn't live there all the time. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with that person. Lower self is when we talk about other people. It doesn't necessarily mean gossiping. It could be talking about good things about other people. But that's the lower self, talking about other individuals. The average self talks about situations, experiences, and that's usually our conversations between average people as we talk about things that happen to us, things that we've experienced. There's various reasons that we do that, but that is the average self. The higher self, which is something that we aspire to, something that we teach in our program, is talking about concepts. And this is a perfect example. For the last 3 months, we've been talking about one concept, happiness. And we've been delving pretty deep into this seemingly simple concept. We started off by discussing why a person would want to be happy, what it means to be happy, and the various processes in order to reach happiness, to uncover what happiness means for you. And we're not going to go over that in depth. That's something that is in the newsletters. If you haven't received the newsletters, you just have to text into the office, 845-400-9466, and you will receive those newsletters, a copy of it. We also have the prior sessions recorded where you can listen to it and get a better understanding. But we are going to review a little bit about what we spoke 2 weeks ago and a very interesting concept about happiness. Why so many people struggle with happiness. It is something that, in my experience, and I can only speak about my experience or what I've studied in theories, from theories, is that the last 6 years that I've been doing this work, helping hundreds of individuals achieve and reach their highest self, is what blocks an individual from living in the higher self. What is it that makes it so difficult for people to live in the higher self? And the thing that we spoke about last week and we went into great depth is that everything that an individual does is broken up into two different, how should I say this, directions, two different sources. Every single thing that we do is either from fear or it is from desire. And these are very two different ways of approaching life in general and different aspects of life in particular. And one of the exercises that we gave last month was to really focus on, when you do something, are you doing it out of fear or are you doing it out of desire? Now, just to understand, I know it may sound like a scary topic. Oh, I'm doing it out of fear. Fear, first of all, is a basic, natural emotion, instinct also, that was given to us as a gift in order for us to survive. Fear is an extremely important feeling, emotion, reaction that was given to us when we were born. Every single human being has fear, and fear is an important part of life. It will save your life many times. If you are fearless, you may walk out onto a major intersection without looking both ways. Clearly, that would not be a very wise decision to do something like that. So the fear of getting hit, the fear of dying, the fear of getting injured will protect an individual from doing something as stupid as that, as walking into an intersection, a major intersection where there are a lot of cars. So fear is also a great motivator for many different things. If somebody wants to reach a certain goal, whatever it is that they want to do, if they want to, whether it's a financial aspect, they want to earn more money, or whether it's a career-oriented aspect that they want to learn something new, or if it's a getting to their purpose in life, that they want to raise a family, so they want to get married, they want to have children. A lot of these things that we do just in those basic aspects of life are motivated by fear. For instance, getting married. I'm afraid that if I don't get married, I'm going to be single. I'm not going to have a family. So that fear, even if it may be extremely subtle, is a good fear. It will motivate an individual to get to a place to live a life that they want to live. So once again, fear is a great motivator to start with. However, during a person's life, in order for things to go smoother, in order to live a happy life, and something that we spoke a lot about in our last month's Mindful Mondays, at some point, it is imperative that a person transforms at some point from fear to desire. If an individual lives their entire life because of fear of losing out on something, fear of not having, fear of not accomplishing, and that is their entire motivation for life, it's going to be a life filled with anxiety. It's going to prevent an individual from achieving certain goals and certain aspects in their life, whether it's a health aspect, if a person wants to lose weight, whether it's just a regular healthy, a person wants to feel physically good about themselves, they want to tone their body, they want to look a certain way, or they just want to be healthier. If it is a financial thing, they want to be able to have more money to utilize in good ways, to give more charity, to support their family. These are all good things that you can do with money. Money is not a bad thing at all. Again, if you do it, if you do not transform to desire, it'll make it extremely difficult to achieve your goals in life. It is a mystery why, if fear is such a great motivator, why don't we just stay in fear? And some people do. And people who stay in fear, those are the people, not that they're the only ones, but those are the people that die young, die of heart attacks. They put an extra strain on their heart, an extra stress level on themselves, living through fear. However, when a person lives from desire, then they have a much calmer, a much happier, a much more peaceful go at life. And this is a choice that is given to us. And we're going to get into depth about this and this session, and again in 2 weeks from now. And we're going to get a deeper understanding of what prevents an individual from transforming from fear to desire. You do not have to create fear. There's no such thing as transforming from desire to fear, because fear is a natural survival instinct that is given to humans, not just humans like we spoke about at length last month, but is given to all living beings, whether it be in the animal kingdom, whether it be in the vegetation of the living objects on planet Earth, trees, grass, all different types of vegetation, all have in them, instilled in them, from the time they are created, from the time they are born, whatever that means for different animals. I don't know if you can really call a tree being born. However, you can say that about animals, about fish, and certainly about humans, that once we are born, it is instilled in us that natural instinct to survive. And to survive comes with it a aspect of fear. So fear is a natural feeling. It's not something that is bad. However, some people take it to the extreme, as we stated, and live their life in fear and that can come from a variety of sources. For a lot of people, especially what we work with in our program, where we do anxiety reduction, we do trauma healing, is people who have gone through a certain level of trauma that they may not even be aware of where that source is, because it's possible that it wasn't even something that happened to them. It could be what we call epigenetics, and it was transgenerational, it was passed down through the DNA of your mother and your mother's mother. So it can be passed down several generations, especially people who were survivors of World War II, of the Holocaust, is something that is very common to be passed down, not intentional, and it doesn't have to be an actual event. However, trauma is something that really affects a major amount, and I don't want to say majority but from what I've seen and from what I've studied, it is a large amount of human beings that have experienced trauma. In fact, when I first became a nurse, it wasn't taught that much in nursing school about trauma. It was talked about a little bit. It was more like an extreme case. Once I did start working in the hospitals, and we would obviously go through training, as we constantly do, new discoveries, new understanding, it became more and more apparent, and I'm going back, I don't know, about 10, 12 years ago, they really recognized, particularly the Office of Mental Health, which is the primary focus with the New York State Office of Mental Health, but even the DSM, which is the psychological encyclopedia that talks about the various diagnoses of mental health, talks a lot about trauma, recognizing that a lot of the ailments that come out as simple, as subtle, I should say, as a simple depression, a simple anxiety, not even going to the extreme ones like psychosis, bipolar, schizophrenia, borderlines, antisocials, not even those, but even the very, very subtle, this simple anxiety, even subtle anxiety, it became more and more apparent, and it is more and more apparent that trauma is a source. Trauma is a hot topic in today's psychological world. And even not, and I'm not talking about just in mental illness, but just in society, trauma is an extremely hot topic today. The Americans spend 4 times as much money on trauma healing than they did on weight loss. Weight loss used to be like the number one thing that people spend money on. But latest statistics spend $60 billion annually. I'm talking about just the United States. I'm not talking about worldwide. And trauma to date, the statistics show that Americans spend 4 times that, somewhere around $240 billion annually in healing trauma. So trauma is really a hot topic because it can be so subtle. And they realize more and more how much it affects individuals. So if you're feeling a little anxious, just so you should know that you are becoming more the norm than the not norm. It is something that is very extremely prevalent, and a lot of people do not have the tools to deal with it. It's something that we teach in our program. It's something that we heal in our program, both the epigenetics and traumatic experiences. When we do it, we have I'm really grateful to say, have a phenomenal success rate. 95% success rate of people who go through our program are healed from various types of trauma, both the most subtle to extreme, which shows itself up, manifests itself as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So if you are feeling a little anxious at something, I want you to know that basically you have a belief about yourself and something that, and again, this comes from my own statistics of working with people for the last 6 years. This is not something that I've studied with theories. It is something based on just my own experience working with, as I stated, for the last 6 years with several hundred people. That every single one, every single individual that comes to our program has the same belief. And that belief is, I am not good enough. It's something we speak about quite extensively. Even here in the Mindful Mondays, we spoke about it last month. Next session, which I do encourage everybody who's here to come back in 2 weeks, I'm going to give a new insight about that belief. And the truth is, the belief in of itself is an illogical belief that I am not good enough. And usually I give the analogy or the example of an individual who wants to try out for a sports team. So they go to the sports team and they tell them, okay, you have to run these 40 yards, you have to do in 10 seconds. And again, I'm just giving random numbers. This is not real or realistic. It's just to bring out the point. So the coach stands there with a hand clock and he says, okay, go. And they start the clock. And he ends up, it takes this individual 10.2 seconds. So the coach tells them, unfortunately, you're not fast enough. You're not good enough to join our team. We need faster people. So if you keep working and training and get your speed up to faster, to doing it quicker than 10 seconds, you will be good enough for our team. But currently at that speed, you are not good enough for our team. In other words, there is a standard to join that team, which is 10 seconds, a 40-yard dash, a 40-yard run. That is a standard that is given, that was created by this team. They decided that's how fast they want their athletes to run. My question is that I always ask, what is the standard to be a human being? Who created this standard that an individual can say that I'm not good enough? And the fascinating thing, and this is truly a mystery, that every single client that comes into a program, every single one, they all come from various backgrounds, they come from various upbringings, various genders, various levels of intellect. None of that matters. That each and every one, 100%, this is 100%. And again, I'm not saying that 100% of people on the world have this belief, because I don't know that. I have not interviewed 8.2 billion people on this planet. But I'm talking about the people that come to my program. Every single one of them has this belief that I'm not good enough. In other words, each and every one of us, somewhere along the way in our life, have developed this theory, because it's a theory, it's a belief, it's a perception, I should say, that they're not good enough. Something that, as I stated, is totally illogical. It has no foundation in reality, because in reality, there is absolutely no standard to be a human. Now, there are better humans and there are worse humans. There are people that give a lot of charity, are very kind and courteous, very helpful, wonderful human beings. And then you have other human beings who create a lot of violence, hurt people, steal from people, kill people. Those are not very good human beings. A lot of them end up in jail. Nonetheless, even those individuals who do horrific things, absolutely horrific, they are no less a human than the kind, courteous, loving human being. Both of them are humans. These humans are behaving in a most profound way, a beautiful way, fine specimens of humans. And these people are acting animalistic, because animals don't have remorse. Animals will hunt, and they will take other animals' babies away in front of them. They will kill in front of them to survive, because the difference between animals and humans are animals do not have any conscience. They are not created to have a conscience, because their primary way to live is through survival. Humans also live through survival, but the difference is that we are created to have a conscience. Why? Because there's something very important about humans, which we're going to get into in a couple of minutes, is that we are social beings. We are created to be together with other humans. We have grandchildren that we are aware of. Animals do not. Animals, they do have their tribe, so to say, their pride, their herd, what's called a herd. In other words, a community of animals live together. That is for safety, to protect themselves from the predators. We live in community. It's not just for safety, but it is because we are social beings. That is how we were created. We are created to connect to other social beings. And that's a very important point to explain this belief that we have that I'm not good enough. Why would a person, why would an individual live with that belief that I'm not good enough? And it comes from there's various sources where this is created. Like we stated, there really is no standard to be a human. However, one of the major theories that we teach in our program is humans do not do random. Everything that we do, that's one of our most fundamental theory that has proven to really help individuals with extreme anxiety and extreme trauma, is that belief. And so that is where we get that, is from that innate ability to, it's not really an ability, but our natural state is to connect to other people. If that's our need, if that's what we have to do to live, then why would we have this belief that I'm not good enough? When a person has a belief that I'm not good enough, that really puts a damper on connecting to other people. So there must be something that is causing us to have that belief. Because if I'm not good enough to connect with other people, how am I going to fit in? How am I going to connect? And if anybody is struggling with that, or has ever struggled with that, it really gives a wake-up call and hopefully opens your mind a little bit that there is something going on that stops a person from connecting to other people. That belief that I'm not good enough, where it comes from. So one of the sources, something that we spoke about in the past, is what we call an imposter syndrome. That if we have this perfectionism, something that can happen from childhood upbringing of dysfunction, where we believe that we needed to prove our existence in order to be good enough to be recognized, to be nurtured by our parents in an emotional way. I'm not talking about nurturing through basic nurturing of a home and clothes and food, but just to be recognized. So if we believe that we need to be, that we haven't been nurtured in order to achieve that connection, emotional connection with our parents, there's a belief that's created that I need to work harder. I need to be good enough in order to be accepted, in order to be loved, in order to have emotional connection. Because once again, as humans, we are created to connect to other people. So because we don't think, that individual doesn't think they're good enough, so imposter syndrome is, if somebody else, if you, whoever that you is, would only know who I really am. And what does that mean, who I really am? In other words, my perception of me, because we already stated that the only standard to be human is what we decide, because there really is no standard to be human. So we have determined what that standard is. If you would know that I'm not living up to my standard, then you would not want to be my friend. And you would reject me. And you would abandon me. You would neglect me. Because we have this innate desire as a social being to connect to other people, with that imposter syndrome, with thinking that I'm not good enough, so works against us, because now we're afraid to connect. And we use a multitude of coping mechanisms to get through life, things that wreak havoc in our lives, cause so many difficulties and challenges, certainly blocks us from happiness, blocks us from inner peace, blocks us from getting to a place where we feel accepted, where we feel wanted, where we feel a part of. This belief that I'm not good enough because I set some type of standard for myself and I'm not living up to that, that is going to make it very difficult for me to connect to another person. And then we start blaming, criticizing, getting angry at other people, frustrated, not being able to reach our goals. And this is something that we've been, like I stated, we've been talking about. This is the third month that we're talking about happiness. That is truly the concept of living at your higher self. True wisdom is not about understanding or knowing a lot of different concepts and a lot of different ideas. It's really about understanding one concept on a very deep level. And every month and every session that we've been doing Mindful Mondays for the last couple of months, we've been delving deeper into this concept of happiness. That not being good enough, that imposter syndrome, not only prevents us from connecting to other people, but then there's another fear, the fear of success. In other words, we want to connect to other people because we are social beings. We're afraid to connect to other people because if people only knew who we were, they wouldn't want to connect to us. It puts us between a rock and a hard place. What am I supposed to do? If my natural instinct is to connect to other human beings, and I don't think that I'm good enough to connect to you, and I'm afraid that if I try to get closer to you, and again, whoever that you is, and this works across the board, it works with strangers, coworkers, neighbors, family, spouses, children, parents, siblings, extended family, any place where there is another human being that is part of our life, it causes a rift and can cause a severe rift between me and another human being. This belief that I'm just not good enough. So as much as I want to connect to somebody else, I'm afraid to connect to somebody else. And then comes in this situation, this person said this and this to me, what am I supposed to do? Or I had this and this happen to me. Why is that happening? Why am I afraid to talk to this individual? Why am I feeling uncomfortable with somebody else? Why am I having a difficult time with a child, with a spouse, with a parent, with a friend? All of this comes from this deep down belief that I'm not good enough, meaning I'm afraid to connect to somebody. I want to connect to somebody. Why do I want to connect? That's how we were created. We were created as social beings. We were created to connect to other people. And I can't live up to that standard because I have a fear that I'm not good enough. So we have these, what's called a cognitive dissonance. We have these two voices in our head, one telling us, and this is all obviously on a very subconscious level, one telling us that I want to connect to somebody else, and one is telling me that I'm afraid to connect. Who should I connect to? Who should I not connect to? Who should I get close to? Who should I not get close to? A very difficult way to live life with these two voices in our head that we're not even aware of. That's why we're here. That's why we talk about these things. Because the source of healing and getting to our higher self is to talk about concepts. And that's why at your lower self or your average self, you're not going to get true answers to your dilemmas. Our logic self tells us, oh, I had this situation and I behaved like this, or my friend behaved like that. What should I do about that? We all have those questions. I've been hearing those questions in our sessions. As I stated, for the last 6 years, hundreds of people asking all the same stuff. And our answer is always, or should I say is never, about the situation or never about the other person. Because that will not bring the answer. That will not bring the solution. We believe it will. And that's why we keep doing it. And we don't understand what the source of our problem is. So, what is the solution to this dilemma that we live with? And I want to just drop a little seed here. And again, we're going to go deeper into the solution in our next session in 2 weeks from tonight. That just so you should understand the fact that you have this belief that you're not good enough, the fact that you have this conflict that not sure how to react to other people, not sure how to get along with other people. Something that I mentioned back in January, in our first podcast, our first Mindful Monday, is something that I was taught. Very interesting in when I was in Bellevue Hospital in Manhattan. And I was there at an orientation, and the speaker there was really a polished individual. No great license, not a psychologist, psychiatrist, not a doctor, not a nurse, not a PhD, no alphabets after his name. He was just an individual who's been around for a while. And he says the number one difficulty that we have is cohabitation, is living with other people, getting along with other people. And he was preparing us that when you're working with individuals at work, that we all come from different backgrounds, different religions, different beliefs, different communities, different cultures. And we're all put together, especially in New York, which is really like they call a melting pot, where there's such a variety of people coming from different cultures. You don't feel it so much in our communities where you live more of an insular life. But if you go out a little bit into the world, you really find a vast difference in the different cultures. And it can be challenging to learn how to get along with those various cultures, is cohabitation, living with other people. He didn't go into great depth about what it is or how to deal with it. He was just bringing out a point. My point is that the reason why we have these struggles, the reason why we have anxiety, is because there is something very deep instilled in us when we were created. And we touched on it in last month's Mindful Mondays. And we touched on it, we're touching on it more here, and we're going to finish off this whole idea of happiness in our next Mindful Monday in 2 weeks. Is we've been instilled in us a will to live. It is that will to live that is the reason why we have these problems. Why we have these, I should say, why we have these challenges. It's not problems, but why we have these challenges. It is one of the beautiful mysteries of life that is instilled in us a will to survive, just like every single animal on the planet. And again, we expounded on this last month. If you missed, you can get in touch with the office where you texted in the word mindful, and we will be more than happy to guide you where the recordings are. That is instilled in us that will to survive, where that fear comes when we're first born. Soon as we come out, we have that fear, because as soon as we're born, even before we're born, as soon as we're conceived and start creating, when we have a heart that's beating, the minute life is instilled in that fetus, right away is put in to us that will to live. Life that we get, every living object, plants, bugs, fish, animals, humans, has in us a very powerful will to live. So when we look at our challenges, one message that I want to leave for you tonight on the next 2 weeks as you ponder, hopefully you've been taking some notes, on what we've been speaking about tonight, to understand that the will to survive and the will to live is something that is God given. It was given to us at the minute we were created, before we were born, even. And that is the driving force for every single thing that we go through in life. So if you're having a struggle, if you're having difficulty, if you want to find out more, you can reach out to our office, find out about the programs that we have. Again, 845-400-9466. Or for those of you who are calling online, Darren, I hope, you are here. If you could put in the link of where they can reach out to the office, the email and the link, it will be in the chat, to reach out to Ascent to find out more about this, the things that we have healed in this. Thank you. You have it, info@ascentbyktpo.com. You can just email us, say, hey, I was on your Mindful Monday. I'd like to find out a little bit more about what you do. Or you can go online at ascentbyktpo.com. Again, it's in the chat. If you do not have internet access, you can just text us, 845-400-9466. This is what we do. We heal and put a bridge between that fear that we are created with and the desire to live a happy life. And in our next session, I'm just giving you a heads up, we're going to answer and have a different outlook, even though we started to get to the solution. We understand more where I'm not good enough is coming from, but we're going to look at it from a different angle. And I do believe that if you do take that in, obviously you got to show up and comprehend that on a deeper level, you can live in happiness. You can have inner peace. You can have inner joy. And I speak from personal experience. The reason why I know about these things is because I was there. I was suicidal 24 years ago, 2001. I let myself into a crisis center weighing 312 pounds. Yes, I was very anxious, very depressed, very scared. It was, at the time, a very dark part of my life, but it turned out to be a great gift, as it started that journey that I've been on for the last 24 years. To get to that place where I don't live in happiness 24/7, I don't think that's humanly possible. But 90% of the time I am. And that's why I have the ability to teach this, because I've been there. I know what that is. And if you're going through that, I want first to tell you that I really validate those feelings. They're real. They are real. But you're not alone. There is hope. There's always hope. How do I know that? Because we were instilled with that will to live, that will to survive, something that was given to you. It's a gift. It was given to you from the moment you were born. Having that will is something that we never lose. Unfortunately, some people get to a level of depression where they give up. They give up on life, and it's very sad. And it happens quite often. I've experienced people that it's happened to, both with patients of ours in the hospitals that I worked at. I've seen it, experienced it in different areas of my life. I've seen it too often. So it's not something that is far-fetched. I am aware of it. It's not a popular topic. People don't like to talk about suicide. Unfortunately, it is all too common. However, what we do here and what we do in our program is, can't say it's a guarantee, but it definitely puts people further and further away from that. Just the opposite. Sends us to a place where we're truly happy, truly joyful. If that's something that you're looking for and you're still struggling, trying to find yourself and find where you fit in, that's why we are here. And once again, I want to welcome all our newcomers, tell you how this works. I know we call it a podcast. It's not really a podcast because it's really a live event where we're going to open up now for Q&A, for questions and answers. If there's something that you want clarification on, something that you would like to understand a little bit better, something that you are struggling with, I will do my utmost to answer you. It's something that we have with our coaches in our program. We have 4 or 5 live Q&As every single week with recorded sessions and a process that we take people through to get to that inner peace and inner happiness. That concludes our session for tonight as far as the training part of it goes. Once again, this is recorded. You will have access. This is absolutely free. We will be back in 2 weeks to conclude this particular topic. Now we'll open up for Q&A. You can press *6, I believe. 1 second.
I just want to ask, in a nutshell, this whole class is saying if someone feels they're good enough, then they're happy?
One more time, repeat that, please. It's a little distorted. Maybe some background. I didn't hear your question clearly.
I'm calling you back.
Basically, my question is, if someone feels that they are good enough, then they are happy?
It's not about just being good enough that they are happy. No, that's not. It's a little more than that. It's more about where this not good enough comes from. That the reason why we have this belief that we are not good enough is what we were expanding on. If you are not speaking, I would appreciate if you would stay muted. Thank you. So it's a little bit more profound than that, if I'm good enough. No. It's about creating an identity for yourself, an honest identity. Not good enough is not an honest identity. It doesn't go from, you're going like like what we call the black or white thinking, not good enough to good enough. No, that's not how it works. Not good enough is the negative side. The positive side is, I'm good enough. That's a very low level that I'm good enough. There are much greater heights than just good enough. The greater heights are that I have an identity. I'm happy who I am. We're talking about happiness. Just being good enough is a pretty low level of being human. That is not going to bring you to happiness. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the goal is, in other words, you ever heard of the concept, go for the gold, go for the best?
Yeah.
Saying that, I'm good enough, that's enough. No, that won't bring you true joy. And that in of itself, just saying that you're good enough, it is a positive step forward of getting out of not being good enough. However, it will not get you to achieve your goals on a sustainable level with that alone. Does that make sense? Being good enough is taking you out of fear, but it's not getting you to desire. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, 100%. I'm answering. It's not about the answer to not good enough is good enough. No, that's not true. It's a beginning. right? It's a start.
Yeah.
However, that will not get you to true happiness in of itself. Make sense?
Yeah. So what does bring a person to true happiness is having an identity.
Correct. Correct. When you know that you have a very specific identity of who you are, whatever that is, let's say your goal in life is to be a wonderful mother. Okay. Just giving you an example. I'm not saying that is or is not. Correct? And that is
Yeah.
your identity to be let's say you're a religious person, to be a religious mother, following the Torah, doing the best that I can in raising Jewish children. That is your identity. That is your purpose. If that's your identity, then you're not going to falter, you're not going to fall down if you make a mistake, because you understand I'm a human being, but this is my identity. This is who I am. Nobody can come and tell you that you're not, because you have a strong foundation of who you are. That is my identity in this world. I don't need to prove myself to anybody. When you have an identity, do you need to prove yourself?
No.
No. So that's where it comes. So having that identity, is that about good enough, or that's much deeper than just that?
Sorry, I missed it again.
Having that identity, whatever that is that just good enough, or that's a lot more, that's a lot deeper and more profound than just that?
Right.
So it's about transforming from fear to desire. We've been speaking about this for 3 months. It is not a simple topic in the sense that it's simple in the sense that it's not complicated, right? Because he said, oh, it's just about not being good enough. No, it's much deeper than that. That's the beginning. But we want to get somebody to happiness. In other words, living a life from happiness. Can you see that if maybe you already do have that, your life takes on a completely different perspective? Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody texted in on the chat. This is my first time on your program, and I want to thank you for sharing your amazing insight, this very new to me understanding of human nature. You're welcome. Great. I'm glad you're here. Once again, if you want to find out more, since you're on the chat, you have the ability to get in touch with us and find out more about our insights. Somebody, I'm trying to understand. Somebody texted in, it's not so clear. Why is it to be happy when I lost my friend's husband was nifter? How could the person be happy then? How can I support them? Yeah, people go through trauma. People go through tragedies in life. Tragedy is a healing process. It's not just about being happy. There are times that people go through tragedies, obviously. There are losses. It's part of about the human journey in life. Nothing in this life lasts forever. We all eventually do pass on. And our mortality is something that is part of life. So when somebody has a tragedy, that's not really a time to be happy. That's a time to grieve. So that's very different. Hopefully that was helpful. Anybody else have a question or a comment about something that we spoke about? 5-5.
Yeah, I do. If you have, hello, do you hear me?
I hear you now. Hello.
Okay, fine. It seems like a lot of building up. Do you know it is? If you have faith, in God and you believe in something higher, wouldn't that also help to dissipate that fear and to really enforce, the feeling of this is my desire, this is what I truly want, to get more in touch with your true self, with your true identity, if you're able to know that it's not you controlling everything, even though we have that wanting to control. Oh, why did I do that? What's going on? I can't let that be. But when you just deepen your faith in God, isn't that one of the strongest tools to be able to make that switch?
So you bring up a very good point. And again, that's a religious concept. This is not a religious program. However,
No, I'm not saying. I'm just believing in a higher power. It's like the 12 steps. I'm not saying
again,
this religion, that religion. I'm just
right,
saying generally 12 steps is for anybody. It's just
right.
believing in a higher power and not trying to control everything in your life.
Well,
Not focusing on a religion per se.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There are two different concepts that you touched on, and I don't know if you're even aware that you did. It could be that you are aware of it, but there are people here who are not. I want to expound on that, if I may. That doesn't mean that you were not aware of it when you asked your question. Fair enough?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
There is a difference between belief and you use the word faith. Faith in something is trusting. True? Were you aware of that when you mentioned that, or you just happened to mention the
No,
word?
but I meant both of them. I meant faith and trust, faith and belief.
Right.
The two top concepts could go together, but
No.
the higher one, it would be the one of I believe, truly believe.
Wrong. So that's what I wanted to tell you. That unfortunately, it's a mystery. It's not logical. Belief is not strong enough to get to a person to their highest self. A lot of people who have belief are unable to get to their higher self because the way to get to that, faith and belief are not the same concept at all. They're very different. You can believe in something, a higher power, like you said, but not trust it. In other words, if you believe everything happens because it's supposed to happen, right? That's the way it is, correct?
Now read the book. Now read the book.
That's not for me.
Now
By the way, that's not for me.
I guess.
Maybe. Now read the book.
1 minute.
Mommy,
okay, thank you. If you believe in a higher power, like you say, that is insufficient. Not that it's not good. That's not my point. But in order to get to a place of true desire is with trust, which is faith. Belief and trust, belief and faith are two completely different concepts, and people are not aware that they are very different. There are many people who believe in a higher power, but they don't trust it. The real aspect of connecting to a higher power, because you're talking about connecting, true? Are you still there? I see you're unmuted.
Hello. I hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
do you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you. So you're talking about is connecting to a higher power, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So belief is one connection to a higher power. Trust is a far deeper connection that absolutely, you are correct, will alleviate a lot of fear and get you to live at your highest self. Belief in of itself is not. And I believe one of the misconceptions that individuals have is they don't get to that level. They don't understand that it's not one thing. And people struggle with trust. People go through trauma, struggle through trust. They think that's a reflection on their level of belief, but it's not. You can have belief and not trust. You can't have it the other way around. If you are trusting a higher power, whatever that is, the Abishter or a supernatural being, spiritual being, you definitely believe in it. But just because you believe in it doesn't mean that you trust it. Make sense? You muted yourself, so I don't know if you're still there. You need to press *6 again to unmute. Five, you're still there? I don't know what happened. I lost you. Okay. I saw some other people muted and unmuted. Anybody else has a question or a comment? Again, *6 to unmute. If you have a question or a comment. Anybody else? Or again, if you're in the chat, you can text in your question there. Yes. Hello? No? Hello?
You hear me?
I hear you now.
Why is it important to be happy in life?
So that we spoke about last month,
Okay.
and we spoke about the different aspects. We're not going to go into depth about that.
Okay.
You can refer to that thing where we go into
And
depth.
the message what I sent before you didn't understand, that was me, that I sent about my friend's husband.
Okay.
So I wanted to like understand how to support her by being happy now, to make her happy.
It's not about, once again, when a person goes through a tragedy,
Okay.
this is not the solution. How can a person be happy who just lost a loved one?
I hear.
They have to grieve. It's a healing process.
Like the breathing techniques.
Grieving with a G.
Grieving. Okay.
Not breathing.
Grieving.
They need to grieve it. Yes. That is not a time for happiness.
Uh-huh. I hear.
So supporting somebody is being there for them, not trying to fix them and make them happy, but allowing them to be sad and to feel the pain of the loss is therapeutic for some.
It's also a pain for me because it's very close to me, and I had such support to her to like when I was around her husband, and he was a very happy person always, but now it's very hard not to see him.
Absolutely. So that's the grieving that you are also grieving, in other words, from your loss.
Uh-huh. I hear what he's saying.
Yeah, that's not a time for happiness or trying to be happy. That's it's not the time. It's allowing the healing.
I know.
Okay.
I know what. I hear you. I hear you.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, I know.
Your friend's loss.
I could. By the way, you know who I am? I could tell you who I am.
We keep it very anonymous.
Yeah.
So I would prefer.
We met by the event.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. You probably know me, but you can't say like names.
I like people to feel safe that.
Right. 100%.
But
all right, thank you.
And thank you for your question. Okay. Anybody else have a question or a comment on something that we spoke about tonight? I'm grateful that we did not get cut off because of the thunderstorm. 17, you're up. Hello. You have a question? I see you unmuted. 17 is the last 2 digits of your phone number. Now you muted again. Okay. There, you unmuted. Hello?
Oh, hello. Hi, I'm sorry, I was muted on my phone.
Did you want?
Where would I be able to send in a question, like email or text? Is that an option?
Absolutely. You talking about?
Okay, so which number?
You talking about for right now to send in a question?
No, even for next time, whenever.
Yeah, you can email us at info. Let's see, he put in the chat. Info at sentbyktpo.com. Again, info at ASCENTBYKTPO.com, that you can email us, or you can text it to the office 845-400-9466, 845
400-9466.
400-9466. And you can say, I have a question for the next Mindful Mondays.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you.
One,
Are you the person who just texted, or?
no.
I just want to answer the person who texted that they can text in that question there, or you can unmute. Go ahead. Yes.
How is the belief I'm not good enough? Because I do it in healing and it comes up a lot. How is the belief I'm not good enough tied to the will to live?
Repeat that. How does
You're saying that the feeling for a person I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy is tied to the fact that each human being has a will to live. So how is it tied to that?
If you didn't have a will to live, and 5-2, I see you, you will be next. If you didn't have a will to live, then you wouldn't even be saying that I'm not good enough.
What do you mean? Because a lot of people, unfortunately, they're suicidal. They're probably, one of the feelings that they have is that they're not good enough.
Well, correct. That would be an extreme case where they've given up on the will to live. So for them, it's at an extreme level. There are people who can be depressed, but they're not suicidal. True?
Yes.
Same idea. There's a person that can feel that they're not good enough, but they're not suicidal. To be suicidal, right, you need to reach 3 levels. Level 1 is you have to feel hopeless. You have to feel hapless, no happiness in your life. And you have to feel helpless, that there's absolutely no help for you. That's a much deeper than just a basic I'm not good enough.
True, yes. But I still don't cop how it's tied to, because if a person has a will to live, then because when you feel you're not worthy, let's say some example, someone is single, right? And they need to get married. Let's say they're an older girl, boy. But if you feel that you're not good enough, you're not going to pursue a shidduch, or, for example. So I think it takes away from the will to live, to have a good life at least.
Again, if a person wants something specific in their life, like you gave an example for shidduch, blocking them from getting a shidduch is, oh, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve that. Take away from the will to live, it just takes away from the will, from the possibility, not the will, but the possibility to live a happy life. Do you see the difference?
Yeah. But how is it that if a person would have has a will to live, and therefore they feel that they're not worthy, or therefore it bothers them that they feel they're not worthy because they want to live a good life?
No, you're looking at it the opposite way. That the only reason a person is going to say that they're not good enough is because they have a will to live. If a person doesn't have a will to live, they're not even going to say that I'm not good enough.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It works the opposite way. You're looking at from the upside down. It's really from the downside up. So if I used to work in geriatrics with elderly people, and people who were, a lot of them were already at the end of their life, not hospice, but still at the end of life. And the family would complain to me that their elderly mother is complaining.
Okay.
But you know what I would tell them?
If she's complaining, it's good.
Exactly. Why?
Because if she's complaining, it means that she wants things to get better.
Exactly. She still
If
has.
she wouldn't have wanted it, she wouldn't have complained.
If she's given up on life, I said, when they get quiet, that's when you need to be concerned. If we're complaining that we're not good enough, that means that we really do want to be
good enough,
whatever that means. Even though we may not really understand fully what it means, we want to be worthy. We want to have a better life, but we're frustrated that we can't get to it because we have this belief. But if you don't even want a good life, you're just not going to complain.
That's true.
So that's why that belief, the source of it, is because you have a will to live. Now,
yeah. Correct. Like my grandmother used to say, if you need, and you're in a good place. If you don't need anymore, it's not good.
Well, so if you still have a desire to try to do better, you still have that will to fight, you're doing really good.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Makes sense.
Thank you so much. Somebody texted in a question, then 5-2, I see that you asked. Let me get to this question that somebody texted in. Is it possible to make friends when you're not happy and you feel everything you do is wrong and believe you're not good enough? Is it possible to make friends? Let me answer you this way. If you are living with that belief that you're not good enough and you're very depressed, even if you connect to somebody on a friendly, as a friend, it's going to be extremely difficult to have a strong friendship, because it's possible that the person that you're going to be friends with, so to say, is just somebody that you can vent to and express your sadness, your depression, your anger with yourself. The reason why you can't have a really good friend at that level is because in order to have a good friendship with another human being, you first got to have a friendship with yourself. And if you don't have a strong friendship with yourself, if you don't like yourself, you can't expect somebody else to like you. Does that make sense? Which kind of answered your second question, what stops a person from making friends? So what stops a person is they don't like themselves. I'm not even getting to love themselves. But you can't accept another person's friendship if you don't have a friendship with yourself. So the level of friendship that you may have, it's an acquaintance. They call it, like with alcoholics, for instance, they have something called drinking buddies, people that they drink with. Both alcoholics are very depressed people. So they're feeding off each other's negativity. It's not really a friendship. It's a companionship, but it's not really a friendship. Hopefully that makes sense for you. I'll wait to see if you respond to that or not. In the meantime, 5-2, I believe you unmuted. Did you have a question? Yes, hi. Hello? 5-2? If you're asking, I cannot hear you.
Hello?
Yes, I hear you now. Hello?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. You mentioned before about the grieving process.
Okay.
Could the grieving process include, let's say, when you get triggered, like basically not crying, but your eyes should tear like for a nice number of hours, like for 2-3 hours?
What does that mean that you got triggered that you're crying? Can you be a little...
Basically, like a codependent relationship that ended.
Right. Yes.
Ended very traumatic and very
Absolutely.
abrupt.
Absolutely. 100%. That when you lose something close to you, whether it was healthy or not is not the point. If you were in a relationship, even if it was a codependent relationship, because the whole reason of codependence when a person has a type of relationship is because they don't love themselves. So the codependency is the fear of being abandoned, the fear of being neglected, the fear of being betrayed. Does that relate? Does that resonate with you?
Yes.
So when you lose that, and I want you to know, I really can validate those feelings. I've been there. I know what it is. It's horrible. It's very difficult. The reason why you lose that is because that person in a codependent relationship is what gave you your identity.
Right.
And losing that is very scary. There are a lot of clients that come to, are you in our program or?
No.
Would you like to find out?
What are you supposed to be doing or feeling? How are you supposed to react to it when it happens in order that healing should happen?
So number one, you asked a lot of what should I do? Healing is a grieving process. It's not about what I should do. It's about an experience. You don't necessarily need to do something. The fact that you're asking the question, you're getting a little bit more self-awareness. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the way to heal that is to gain more self-awareness about yourself, not about the other person. As much as it feels like the relationship or the other individual is the source of your struggle, true?
Yeah.
That is not the source of your struggle. That is what you're feeling now, but that is not the source of the struggle. And therefore, that cannot be the source of your healing. The source of the healing is about understanding the concept. And it's not about blaming, because that's where your mind is about to go, what I'm about to say. It's not about blaming, and I'm not criticizing. It's about getting a deeper understanding of why you were in a codependent relationship to start with. That is the true healing process. Does that make sense?
Yes.
How to go about that, that's something that we do in our program. If you want, I can have somebody reach out to you. We can talk to you about that more if you would like. Would you like that?
I'm out of it already, so it's
No
like
such
over
thing.
with.
Not possible. You may not be in the relationship. You may feel that you're over it. But if you haven't done inner work, you're not out of it.
Mm.
Just because you're not feeling emotions around it, it is highly likely that you will feel it again. You will get triggered by something. Otherwise, you would not be asking this question. True? Because if you were out of it, you wouldn't be asking it, would you? You're not in diapers anymore, are you? Are you? I know that's an extreme question, but you're not. I lost you. Okay. My point was that because you're out of that, then you don't ask questions about it. That's what I was trying to get to. Okay. 3-5. Do you have a question?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you hear me?
I hear you now. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to ask, what's your program? Like a diet program or?
So we started off because I was obese my entire life. And I've kept off my 100 pounds of weight for 21 years. I started off 6 years ago by teaching people how to keep their weight off. And then what happened was it evolved realizing that people needed deeper healing, and that one of our main theories is that anxiety causes cravings. I developed this trauma healing program, anxiety reduction program. And some of the things that we were talking about tonight, we teach in our program. So we do trauma healing, and we do anxiety reduction, but we also have a program for weight loss that eventually leads into that, because that is a source. Like I was telling the other person, the previous caller, is why were you in a codependent relationship to start with? Why does a person overeat to start with? So not everybody who comes into our program has weight issues. There's a lot of people on Ozempic, on all the different injectables today, but that will help that will take away a person's appetite, but it doesn't address the source of why an individual is overeating in the first place.
Let me ask you, when does your program start, the weight loss program?
So we're going to be starting another one, I believe, in another week or two. I have your number because you unmuted. If it's okay, I will have our office reach out to you and can discuss it with you.
Okay, and how long is the program?
6
Weight
weeks.
loss program.
The weight loss
6
program
weeks?
is 6 weeks. 6 weeks. The first part. First part is a 6 weeks program where people lose. We have a 98% success rate of people losing 6 to 15 pounds.
Uh-huh. Nice. But it's not yet getting into the emotional part.
It starts. It does start in the 6 weeks, yes. We do start it after by the second week already. We get into it. The third and fourth week goes deeper into it. And then the fifth and sixth week talks more about goals to maintain it. So yes, we do get to the emotional aspect of it already by the second week.
Nice.
Because food is not the problem, so therefore cannot be the solution. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And as you've been hearing tonight, we don't talk a lot about food.
Okay, beautiful. I'm desperate to lose it really fast, but I guess I'll wait for it to start.
How to lose it really fast? What does that mean?
I have a simcha coming up.
So you want to be at a certain weight for a simcha, correct?
Yep.
And is it a realistic thing that you're trying to achieve? Because rarely, I didn't say never, and I've been doing weight loss for 50 years, both unsuccessfully and successfully. And rarely, in my experiences, trying to reach a quick goal in a quick amount of time, many times it works the other way around. we can't get there and we don't understand why. Unfortunately, if you are an overeater, then it's not sufficient motivator. It's a great motivator to get started, and you will lose weight with our program, but it's not about quick. It's just, I know we all want that, and we also want to lose it in a certain part of our body, right? Unfortunately, it's just not human nature, but I think we do a pretty good job. Depending on your weight loss history and your health, if you're on any medications, these are possible things that could prevent the weight loss process. Does that make sense?
No,
You're all good.
I
All
hear.
right. Great.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Anybody else have this person who texted before said, how do we do how do you love yourself and make friends? Well, that's what we do in our program. That's a process. Somebody from the office reach out to you and talk to you about that. That's not a one-line answer. It is a process to get to a place of first understanding why you don't like yourself. Something that we've been talking about for quite a while. And then getting to how to love yourself. So it is a process. I wish it was a quick fix. I don't know if I wish. We're not microwave ovens. We all want everything quick, myself included. And although Shom used to say, don't wish your life away, but there are certain aspects of my life that I would like to get past and wish away. I think that's just human nature. It's normal. 3-5, you still wanted to ask a question? Or
Just
you
want to ask,
yeah.
hi, where do you take like the whole belief here, what we're learning, what is it based on? Like,
My theory.
it's not a religious, the theory, yeah, exactly.
Me.
The program in general or whatever you're saying.
I created the theories based on what I did to keep my weight off. So I came up with these 3 theories that we teach. I've been mentored I work in a psychiatric hospital for the last 15 years, and through my experience and my training, I've used that as a guide to help me create these theories, and I've run it by my mentors, my teachers, the psychiatrists and psychologists that I work with, who I've run by these theories with. I've written a book about it. Hopefully will be coming up very soon, second book that I've written. So these theories are my theories, and the success rate that I have proven that they work.
I see. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
It's based on my research and my experience. In other words, you're not going to find these theories anywhere because it's something that I developed.
What's the first book you've written?
Again, what's the one?
You said you wrote a book?
I did. The first one is called Defeat Diabetes Now. It sells on Amazon. I wrote that in 2007, my last year in nursing school. And the second,
what's the name?
Defeat Diabetes Now. It's about diabetes.
Defeat Diabetes?
Yeah, Defeat, D-E-F-E-A-T, Defeat Diabetes Now. I'm a diabetic, and I talk about the emotional aspect of diabetes, something that was not popular back then. Now it's very common knowledge, but back then it was really innovative. And then the second book, which hopefully will be coming out in a few months, we're just finishing the final editing of the last few chapters, will be called Keep Those Pounds Off. And that will be out for sale, hopefully in a few months. Just have the last few chapters to finish editing, but everything else is complete.
Very nice. And this diabetes book is made for just people that are struggling with overweight, or
There is a chapter.
not diabetic?
There is a chapter there on weight loss, and it definitely can be helpful for that. Yes.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me ask a question here. because somebody who's been around for a while. I have a question about something you mentioned, that I don't have credit cards. I don't remember how long ago I mentioned that, but that is true. I understand that overeating might be the same as having outstanding debt. Oh, absolutely. It comes from an outstanding debt is a completely different concept. It all comes from the same source of something that we were talking about tonight and not being good enough. But it does give me an idea maybe of something to use as a future. I'm going to write it down as maybe a topic for one of our Mindful Mondays. Finances. It's about overeating and outstanding debt are both coming from a lack of self-care, self-sabotage, harming ourselves. So I'm wondering what you would say if I want to buy a house and I have to borrow a large amount of money. That's different. Buying a home is something that we call secured debt. I have a mortgage as well. There's a difference between a credit card debt and secured debt. Secured debt, buying a home, why is it secured? Because at any time you can sell that home and you can pay back your debt. However, if you have credit card debt, I think somebody's child muted. Let me mute them. But credit card debt, there's nothing that you can sell to pay back the debt. Same idea like taking out a car loan to purchase a car. If you can't afford the payments, you can always sell the car, give it back, and then you will be free of the debt. Credit card debt, it's not secured, and that's debting. So borrowing money to go into business, to purchase a home, that's different. Business is something completely different, but to buy a home is secured debt. So that's something very different than having a credit card. Now, if you borrow money on credit cards to buy a home, that is a very risky thing to do. The cost of the interest on that could get you into a lot of trouble. I hope that answers your question. A 5-2, I don't know if you unmuted or did we?
Yes.
Yeah, you asked before, right?
Yes, I want to continue on my question before.
Yeah.
If I like focusing on loving myself and prioritizing myself, and I definitely feel my self-awareness stronger and my...
I'm going to say hello.
Yes.
I'm not hearing you clearly. You're going too fast where it's just unclear. If you could repeat yourself.
Yes. So I'm saying that I'm getting the help I needed, and I'm like really loving myself more and prioritizing myself more and tuning into my needs more. That heal the pain that comes up when I get triggered.
It's a very good question. As you continue to, if you're doing inner work, I don't know exactly what you're doing. If you're doing inner work and you're getting to the source of what that pain is that you are feeling, and you heal that, you will eventually create an identity for yourself, create a strong foundation of who you are, and correct, you will not get affected. I don't like the word triggered, but you will not get affected by what other people say or do. You see, what you think of me, and when I say you, I don't mean you personally because I don't even know who you are, but the general you, right?
Yeah.
Is none of my business. If I have a strong foundation of who I am and my identity and how I live my life, your opinion about me, and again, whoever that you is, right? Won't affect that, correct? That's what we do in our program. We get to create a person to have that identity so they live with their higher self. And all these other things that until now affected us just don't affect us anymore. Does that make sense?
Yes, and when I feel the pain coming up, it's also things that I went through as a child, like inner wounds, like, so basically this relationship was like a reflection of what was going on for me, like when I was a child. So basically that makes the pain way stronger because it was something I had and now it's over. So
is that a question?
That's why when I get triggered, it goes on for, like, my eyes could tear for hours because it's very, like, deep pain. You know what I mean?
That's what you believe. Correct? You're trying to...
I don't think it's a belief, it's facts. It's something that actually my body went through it. Like, it's something that happened to me. It's not something that I want to believe. That I wish it wouldn't be. But that's a fact that I wouldn't.
Do you know the difference between a fact and an opinion?
What?
Do you know the difference between a fact and an opinion?
Yes.
What's the difference?
A fact is something that is there. It's just something you, like, you know, when the day is day and night, and when you have an opinion about something, it's something that you question the fact. Like, not you question it, but you have a say on.
So there's no opinion about night, correct?
No.
It's there. That's a fact, correct? If the sun, if it's daytime, is there an opinion about daytime?
No.
If it's 80 degrees...
So actually, you can't have an opinion on this fact. I'm talking about an opinion on anything, but not something that's a fact.
So maybe I can help clarify what it seems like you're trying to say. Do you believe that an experience is a fact?
I wouldn't call it that way, but...
Something that you experienced, is that a fact?
No.
Then what is it?
But not an opinion either.
Then what is it? You just said that you got triggered because your relationship reminded you of things that happened in your childhood, correct? For two, I see you.
No, triggers I meant to say is that triggers like when I remind myself of the codependent relationship. When I have thoughts about it, I have tears coming.
So the loss is what you're grieving, correct?
Yeah.
And then you asked me that if you realize that this came from your childhood, and you didn't quite finish that thought.
I'm just trying to bring out that it was a connection between my inner childhood and this relationship. So that being said, the pain is way stronger.
Again, that's an opinion that you have, correct?
Yeah.
That's not a fact.
It's logical, so that's what makes me think it's a fact. Not a fact, but that has truth to it.
Again, you claim that you had certain experiences in your childhood, true? Traumatic experiences, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a fact or is that an opinion?
It's a fact.
So I want you to know that I'm not disputing or questioning about what happened in your childhood. I would never do that. However, what happened to you in your childhood is your perception of what happened. Experiences are not facts, they're opinions. Does not mean it didn't happen, but how you perceived it is your perception. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And what happened could have been extremely traumatizing. I'm not trying in any way, shape, or form to minimize your experience. That's not my point. God forbid. I would never do that. I do believe you that it was traumatizing for you. And I validate those feelings, I understand them. However, there is a perception that is connected to that experience. That's why it's not a fact. Now, if you got hit by your parent, that's a fact, right?
Yeah.
Your perception was about what happened, why you got hit, why they did it, how strong it was. All that is a perception. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you have a red mark and you go, hey, this person hit me, nobody's going to say that you're lying. Maybe you provoked them. I'm not saying that's what happened, but you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then they responded. Again, experiences, we think that they're facts, but the perception of the experience is an opinion. And that is the only way to heal, to do that, to get to that perception, not to get down to what happened, but to heal the perception of what happened. Does that make sense?
So how do you go ahead and do that?
That's what we do. It's a process. That is exactly what we do. The first thing is to get out of the denial that the experience is your source of pain.
And for meanwhile, if I do think about it and like tears come, what's the proper way how to handle it? Just let it come?
You're trying to find a logical answer to an emotional problem, correct? It's not how it works. It'll only get you more frustrated. It's a healing process. The fact that you're asking it means that you're hurting. And I want you to know I really validate those feelings. I mean that in all my sincerity. I've been there. My heart goes out to you about this loss of this relationship. It has got to be extremely painful. And those feelings are real. The feelings are real. Feelings are facts. It's not a fact of who you are, but you're really feeling. That's an emotion. Emotions are real. The source of the emotion is where it comes up with an opinion. Does that make sense?
Could you repeat the last sentence? The source of the emotion is what?
Is where it comes to opinion. We call it belief, but belief, opinion, and perception is all the same word, just said differently.
Yeah.
And that, in my opinion, okay, you hear that? In my opinion, is impossible to do on your own. Impossible. You can't do this work on your own. The reason why a person cannot do this work on their own is because various coping mechanisms, natural instincts of a human being, the will to survive, will not allow an individual to really get to the source. And then they keep looking through logic in the wrong way, not because they're liars, not because they don't want healing. There's just aspects of being a human being that protect the individual from really getting down to the real source, because it's too scary when you do it on your own. And it is almost impossible. I say it's impossible completely, but I always leave the almost to get to the real source on your own. You can't.
Because according to my therapist, she just believes in in loving yourself and prioritizing yourself and making time for yourself.
It's very nice. Yeah, that's very sweet and very nice. Those are behaviors. In of themselves, they rarely work. We work on healing the source, not just covering up with something else. It is true that loving yourself is very powerful, but if a person was brought up in a dysfunctional home where the way an individual got attention was only through acting out, for misbehaving, can you relate to that?
No, but I can understand it.
Were your emotions nurtured when you were a child?
No.
Then the only way that you got attention was how?
More overprotective kind of environment.
So you never were allowed to really express your emotions, correct?
Correct.
If you're never allowed to express your emotions, by being overprotected, you weren't able to create an identity. True? So the way you comprehend identity is being overly protected. That's what you were trained. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if you're lacking that, you don't have the tools to survive. True?
Yeah.
If you don't have that, how can you love yourself? If you need somebody else to do it to make you feel secure. So what you got was a mixed message. In other words, love came with a condition. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
If it came with a condition, which is the mixed message which I was talking about, okay, for you, it didn't come from misbehaving, it came from being overly protective, then the idea for you of self-love is too scary. And you'll never be able to get to it by just doing that. The subconsciously, it's a scary thought to love yourself on your own. True or not?
Yeah.
There you go. So what your therapist is telling you, and I don't know what she's telling you, or he, because I'm not there, I'm not in the session, but I'm just basing it on what you're saying. It will never get you to stability going down that road. Do you see that?
Yeah.
What our program is gets the perception, gets the beliefs, and we just touched on it here of what that is. Once we heal that, self-love will come a lot easier. And then you will lose the need for codependency because you will create an identity and love for yourself without needing another individual to acknowledge you and affirm and validate is the word I was looking for, to validate you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having the courage to unmute it and ask. Somebody else texted 1 minute. I'm worried I will have to start being very skimpy in order to pay up my mortgage and have to work extra hours. Again, are you in our program? You who asked about the mortgage? No. Okay. If you would like, I can have somebody reach out to you and we can talk about that, because that's really only the way to get healing there. Is that okay? Because it's not like a question for a Q&A. It's going to take work, but I've listened to your lectures. That's great. Unfortunately, it's more than just listening. It's doing the work. All right. And I thank you for keep coming. I hear you. Yeah, good. All right. We'll get in touch with you. No problem. Awesome. We really want to help people here. And it's painful when people really want it and they're just looking in the wrong place. The previous caller with the self-love, they're just looking in the wrong place. That's all it is. And once you get to the right place, the miracles will happen. and the healing will happen. 4-2, you unmuted. Do you still have a question? Yes, no? You're muted, so I cannot hear you. I don't know if you unmuted intentionally or... Again, we will be here in 2 weeks. You'll have notification. If this is your first time, thank you for showing up. And we will, what's it called?
Hello?
We will, hold on 1 second, please. Here in 2 weeks. If you have friends or relatives that would like to be here, this is absolutely free. As I stated, let them, we're here to help people. Our mission is to help 100 million people, yes, reach their highest self. So I want to thank you all. We will continue this topic in 2 weeks from now. And again, they just have to text into the office, mindful, 845-400-9466. And I want to wish everybody a good night. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much.